We're picking up tonight in Genesis chapter 42 and in verse 26, if I'm not mistaken. The brothers had come down. They had been accused of being spies by Joseph. He's testing them. So he keeps one and sends the rest back home, those other fellows, those other brothers. And we read in verse 26 and following, "And they laded their asses with corn and departed thence. And as one of them opened his sack to give his ass provender in the inn, he espied his money, for behold, it was in the sack's mouth. And he said unto his brethren, My money is restored. And lo, it is even in my sack. And their heart failed them. And they were afraid, saying one to another, What is this that God hath done unto us?" I can't help but when I read that passage, but see the guilt in the brothers. What has God done to us? It's like they're always looking over their shoulder. They're always waiting for that shoe to fall on them. They're just so concerned. And they feel that this is a judgment of God that's come upon them. Ordinarily be a good thing, wouldn't it? A wonderful thing. You have your money returned to you. Wow, what a blessing. Look what we have. We've got all this food and our money we've back to it. And you would say, boy, what a miracle this is. Let me ask you this. Wouldn't you like to go down to your favorite supermarket, do your weekly shopping, load up those big carts with food and take it out, put it in the car. When you get home and you open those bags, there's your money back. Wouldn't you be excited? I mean, you might call the store and ask them what's going on, but you wouldn't think it was bad news. You know, especially if you called and the grocer said, I'm giving you a gift. Don't look in your bags for that though, folks. It's not likely to happen. But this is the same thing here. Under normal circumstances, this would be a good thing. Your money's restored to you. And it would be an encouragement because most people, well, Christians anyway, would say, look how the Lord's blessed me. Well, that wasn't the attitude of these men when they found that. They already feel that they were in hot water because Joseph looked like a hard-boiled ruler. He looked down his nose at them. He had already thrown him in jail, kept one of the brothers, and had made everything that they had done difficult for them. This is only going to add to their concern. You talk about anxiety, they've got it now. What are they going to do? What's he going to do now? So, what? You may wonder first why they didn't go back to Egypt immediately. You open the bag and say, wait a minute, this has got to be a mistake. Do we go back and face the man, as they call him? They didn't do that. I think they feared if they really went back, they would be in some really deep hot water. So they didn't go back. They were afraid that this man would accuse them of stealing that money. And they were not going to take any chances. They're going home, intending to bring the money back with them when they return the next time. Because they're planning to return again. They want to go back and get their brother. And before long, they're going to run out of food and they'll have to go. And they came unto Jacob their father unto the land of Canaan, and told him all that befell them, saying, The man who is the Lord of the land spake roughly to us, and took us for spies of the country. And we said unto him, We are true men. We are no spies. We are 12 brethren, sons of our father. One is not, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. And the man, the Lord of the country, said unto us, Hereby shall I know that ye are true men. Leave one of your brethren here with me, and take the food for the famine of your household, and be gone. And bring your youngest brother unto me. Then shall I know that ye are no spies, but that ye are true men. So will I deliver your brother, and ye shall traffic in the land. they get back and they begin to tell Jacob what went on down there. But you notice one thing they haven't mentioned yet in this? They haven't told Jacob yet about the money. They said, we went down there and that man talked up to us. He accused us of being spies, and we explained that we were all one family, that we had one brother who was basically dead, the way they thought about it. One brother, the youngest, with the father, and we just came for food, that's all. You're spies. No, we're not spies. But they had to leave Simeon behind. So they're telling Jacob, we have a brother left behind here, and we have to go back to free him. Now, to do that, he said, we have to bring our youngest, we have to bring Benjamin. Now, this puts Jacob in a very difficult situation, doesn't it? But he's not going to be able to hold out for long. He does not want to send Benjamin. He has a fear there. But they're going to need more food, and Benjamin's going to have to go with them eventually here. In verse 35, they continue, and it came to pass as they emptied their sacks, that behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when both they and their fathers saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. They thought it was a trick, of course. He's just trying to get us. You see, here again, there's that guilt. That guilt for what they did of Joseph all those years before. They're out to get me. Like that fly is. They're out to get me now, Lord. Father, they want to take us out. They were worried that they were going to be charged now with theft of money. He's already accused us of being spies. Now he's going to accuse us of being thieves. They feared, I believe, that if they returned to Egypt, they were going to go to prison. They really feared that, I believe. Yet they had one of their own brothers there, and they needed to go back to get him. You really begin to see a difference in these brothers now. I think if you'd have gone back 20 years, they probably would have said, let Simeon rot in that jail. I'm not going back. They have really gone through a change now. They have gone from being 11 or 10 individuals to a family. We begin to see that now. They're really caring one for another. They're going to go back. And they're facing a dilemma. Now remember, these are grown men, but there's a dilemma in their life. The dilemma is the father is still the head of the family. What a novel idea, isn't it? It doesn't make any difference how old the father is. He's still calling the shots, which is the way it should be. And Jacob, their father, said unto them, Me have ye bereaved of my children. Joseph is not, Simeon is not, and ye will take Benjamin away? All these things are against me. I do kind of feel sorry for Jacob here. But he has that attitude that I see so often from Christians. Oh, woe is me. Oh, what else can happen to me? Instead of, the one thing that I keep missing here is Jacob saying, Lord, what should I do? How often do we see these men who are really men of faith, but notice here he's called Jacob and not Israel. His faith is weak. But why these men did go, Lord, show me, lead me, direct me? He's not the cocky individual that we knew early on in his life. He's not quite the man of faith that we're going to see a little bit later either. He's kind of in the middle now. But he's growing. That's important to know. He is growing. And if you look at the men of the Bible, they grew. Very few men that we see just, boom, had full faith. Moses had to grow. We said Jacob had to grow. Abraham had to grow. Isaac. They all have to grow in the Lord. And the more they see the Lord do, like us, the stronger their faith. He's not bragging now at all. He's pessimistic. The world must have kicked him around a little bit. His experience over with Laban. His experience now with what happened in Shechem. What's happened now with a lost one son and another son in prison. He's pessimistic. What else can happen to me? He says, all these things are against me. were having a pity party. His son Joseph would not have said such a thing. And it's not recorded of him, is it? And all the things that Joseph went through, not one time he ever said, the Lord is against me. Joseph had a different attitude. It's Jacob who's saying this now. Joseph would have said the same thing that Paul said many years later from Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who that are called according to his purpose. That's what Joseph would have said. Being confident of this very thing, that he which begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. Philippians 1:6. That's what he would have said. That's the attitude of a man who has grown in the faith. But even when he was young in the faith, he never once doubted God. Verse 37, and Reuben spake unto his father, saying, slay my 2 sons, if I bring him not to thee. Deliver him into my hand, and I will bring him to thee again. And he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If mischief befall him by the way in which ye go, then shall ye bring my gray hairs sorrow to the grave. We see that Jacob's entire life is wrapped around Benjamin. Once again, he's making the same mistake he made before. He's playing favorites. He has a favorite son. I understand that he's the son of Rachel, like Joseph was. Favorite. But that's caused, all the problem is caused in the family. He hasn't realized that yet because he doesn't know the truth. You know, the boys came back and they didn't tell him one thing or the other. It's just his coat. Oh, an animal took and killed him. And they just let it go. He has not really seen what it's caused. Joseph was a favorite son because he was the firstborn of his beloved Rachel. Now Joseph is gone. That was a major heartbreak to him, and probably still is after all these years. And now there's a chance he could lose his other favorite son, Benjamin. He says, if that would happen, I would die. Here again, you know, I know people say that all the time. That's a matter of, I'm one of these people who believe absolutely that there's a time to be born and a time to die. And you're going to go when God calls, not before, not after. And your heart may break, but God may not call you home at that time. Very candidly, his heart would have broken. He may have felt like he was dying if something would have happened to Benjamin. His life was tied up in that young son, the son of his right hand. He was a walking stick, so to speak, for Jacob. Jacob leans on him. He's really, you know, he's the youngest. He's a grown man now too, but he's being leaned upon. And that's what he's been doing over these past years. So Jacob says he's not going to let Benjamin go down to Egypt. Not going to happen. In the meantime, poor Simeon is cooling his heels in jail. No, never going to happen is basically what he's saying. My father-in-law always said, never say never. And that's true. Never say never. You just don't know. So as we get into chapter 43, the famine is serious. It continues on. And the sons of Jacob are going to be forced to return with Benjamin down to Egypt because they're going to have an audience with that man, the man down there, and present Benjamin. They need food. The famine's not going to let up regardless of what Jacob does. And it's going to happen. And things are going to get worse. So we're going to see, again, Joseph is not going to make himself known quite yet. A lot of things are going to happen. 43:1 says, and the famine was sore in the land. And it came to pass, when they had eaten up the corn, which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said unto them, go again, buy us a little food. This is a serious famine. They're hungry again. The food is running low. Jacob understands we're not going to have enough to make it much longer. So he says, kind of reluctantly, go again and buy us a little food. Go on now. And then we begin to see a leader really emerge now. And Judah spake unto him, saying, the man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with us. Remember earlier, he says, the other fellow, our brother said, now you can kill my sons if I don't bring you back. Now what grandfather wants to kill his sons? Okay? That's not much of an offer. And he just, but now you have, Judah is beginning to be the spokesman for the family now, for the boy, the brothers. And he just takes charge. And he just, the man, he says, Dad, he gave us a cut and dry proposition. If you want to see my face again, if you want to buy any more food from us again, you come back with your youngest brother. And Judah tells his father very definitely, if we go down there, we have to take Benjamin with us. You wouldn't send him before. We're going to starve to death. We have a brother in prison. We have got to go. And Benjamin has got to go with us. Time is running out. That's basically what Judah is saying. He does it respectfully, though. Now look at verse 6. This is important. See if you can catch why it's important. And Israel said, wherefore dealeth ye so ill with me, as to tell the man whether ye had a brother? And he said, the man asked straightly of our state and of our kindred, saying, is your father yet alive? Have ye another brother? And we told him according to the tenor of these words. Could we certainly know that he would say, bring your brother down? You see anything there? And Israel said, we're beginning to see a little faith. He's been called Israel here. There's some faith somewhere. He's beginning to trust more. He's frustrated. Why in the world did you tell that man in the first place you had a brother? Couldn't you just keep quiet? And Judah tells him, we were asked direct questions. He asked, is your father alive? How's he doing? Do you have any other brothers? He asked specific questions. You know, it's always easy to criticize someone when you don't know the situation. Why did you tell him? He asked me a direct question. You weren't there. You didn't understand. Unless you're there in somebody's shoes, you don't know how terrifying it might be. How scary. So Jacob is thinking with his heart and his favoritism. But I think he's beginning to trust the Lord now. He's going to have to trust the Lord and his ability to accomplish what he promised he was going to do. We need to quit, all of us need to quit thinking in human terms and start thinking spiritually. We need to trust God. I know sometimes it seems hard, but the more we trust him today, the easier it is to trust him tomorrow. And Judah said unto Israel his father, send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little ones. I will be surety for him. Of my hand shalt thou require him. And if I bring him not unto thee, and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever. Judah is really doing something here. Judah says, if anything happens to Benjamin, let the blame be on me. I'll be the substitute. The brothers were really quite reasonable in their answer to their father. They told him they hadn't intended to tell the man everything, but he kept prompting them. You know, they may even think, why is this man asking these questions as if he knows us? But he's really digging into it. And he was going to get the information. He wasn't going to stop until he did. I always get the impression that Joseph was like a prosecuting attorney. He was going to get that information. And Judah comes forward as a surety for Benjamin. I will take care of him, Dad. I will be the one. I'm responsible. You know, you and I have a surety today, and that surety comes from the tribe of Judah. We begin to see Judah now. Is he a perfect man? No, he's not. But we see him being shaped a little bit here. You know, the Lord Jesus Christ took my place, and because he's my shepherd and took my place and took my penalty, that's a glorious thing. Because you and I weren't able to meet his standard. We're not able to carry on at his level. But the Lord Jesus Christ stepped in, and he is my surety, and he's your surety, and he gave his life for me. We have a picture of Christ here in Judah, don't we? We begin to see that tribe of Judah beginning to step forward. Remember, the other brothers have already eliminated themselves from the blessing by their attitudes, whether it was a Shechem or different things. Verse 10 says, "For except we be lingered, surely now we had returned this second time." Here, Judah is being very strong against his father. If you would have let Benjamin go with us in the first place, we would have been there and been back, and this would have all been behind us. You have to remember, though, it wasn't Jacob who was in charge. God's in charge. The timing is God's. They were not going down until the time is right. God's timing is perfect. Ours is not. His is. And their father Israel said unto them, "If it must be so now, do this. Take of the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry down the man a present, a little balm, a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts and almonds." You notice the thing that they really lacked was grain. They had honey, they had some almonds, nuts, didn't have any grain. They lacked bread. And bread, of course, is a staff of life. As I said, honey, nuts, spices. But so Jacob said, send the man a gift. Well, you know, that's been done before. When he came back into land, what did he do? He sent the gifts ahead of him. Gifts, so you can soften someone up a little bit with a gift. He's not trying to bribe him. He's not someone who's up in Congress trying to get what he wants. He's just trying to soften the heart of the man. Let's get on the sweet side of him. Take some honey. Let's see if we can't make him just a little bit more gentle. And then he said, take double money in your hand, and the money that was brought against the mouth of your sacks, carry it again in your hand. Peradventure it was an oversight. Take also your brother, and arise and go unto the man. And God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your older brother and Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. He relinquishes. Okay, we've got to do this. Benjamin's got to go. He has to go along with his older brothers. And so here, the moment's coming now. They're going to stand before the man. You see that he's called, again, Israel here. If I be bereaved of my children, I'm bereaved. A little different attitude. If I do lose my children, I've lost them. But I like verse 14 because it's the first time that we really see, and God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your older brother and Benjamin. He's looking to God now. God's going to do this. God's going to take care. What do we have here? It's a prayer. It doesn't maybe look like that to us, but that's what it is. May God be with you. May God have mercy with you. And the men took the present, and they took double money in their hand and Benjamin, and rose up and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. You can well imagine how Joseph felt. Now, I know how the brothers felt. They were probably knees knocking, trembling. They've got double money. They have to explain how that money got in their sacks, and they're standing before the man who's already talked rough to them and accused them of being spies. But how does Joseph feel? Have you ever thought about Joseph sitting there? He still doesn't, the brothers still don't know who he is. Can you imagine the emotion in his eyes as he looks at his brother and he singles out Benjamin? Benjamin's grown now. But think about that. And he's still trying to keep himself composed. He doesn't want them to know yet. The time's not right. And when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the ruler of the house, "Bring these men home and slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon." And the man did as Joseph bade, and the men brought the men into Joseph's house. The reason he's bringing them is obvious. He wants to talk to them privately in his own home. His information he wants to get. But I'll tell you what, it's probably a big surprise to the brothers. If I'm one of the brothers at this point, I'm probably thinking, what's he up to? Is he really taking us to his house, or is he taking us to jail? What is he doing? They've got to be concerned. Verse 18 tells us, and the men were afraid, because they were brought into Joseph's house. And they said, because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time are we brought in, that he may seek occasion against us and fall upon us and take us for bondmen and our asses. Boy, they're panicky now. Here's that guilt again. They're always thinking that judgment's coming. Boy, now it's here. They can't imagine that Joseph is bringing them into their home for any good purpose. I don't think he's just going to give us some fried chicken. I don't think he's planning that. This can't be good. Boy, he dealt with us so harshly before, and now he's inviting us for lunch. I don't think so. Here's something that under ordinary circumstances, people would brag about. Wow, the ruler has invited me to lunch. Can you think of anyone who was excited about that, being invited to lunch by the king? Haman, remember over in Esther? He was so excited to be invited by Esther to come to meal. But his wasn't going to be as happy as these fellas' meal. But wouldn't you brag, though, if you were invited to have dinner with the president? In the blue room or the dining room? Yeah, you'd be telling people about it. You would think it's a wonderful privilege, but for these men, there was no privilege, no joy there, because of a guilt complex. I have a feeling over these past 22 years or so, everything that happened, they thought it was God's judgment on them. They feel guilty about everything because they are the ones who sold their brother. Now see, Benjamin's a little different. Benjamin's concerned, I'm sure, but he's not fearing like his brothers because he wasn't involved in that. He doesn't have that guilt complex they have. And because of their fears, they're going to begin to wonder and they're going to begin to speculate. Could this fella, is he going to plot to make us slaves? Is that what he's going to do? Because that money in our sacks, what's he planning? Well, they didn't hesitate to make their brother Joseph a slave. They sold him to the Ishmaelites to be sold into slavery in Egypt. Now they're worried about themselves becoming slaves. And they came near to the steward of Joseph's house, and they communed with him at the door of the house, and said, "O sir, we came indeed down at the first time to buy food. And it came to pass, when we came to the inn, that we opened our sacks, and behold, every man's money was in the mouth of the sack, our money in full weight, and we have brought it again in our hand. And the other money we have brought down in our hand to buy food. We cannot tell who put our money in our sacks? They come to the steward and they begin to apologize. They begin to explain, and they're pleading their case. They didn't even wait to see Joseph. They're just talking to the steward. Well, the steward, what is the steward's job? He does take care of the household. He takes care of the funds and things. And they rehash the entire story again of that first trip down and finding the money when on their way back home. They even appeal to this man who is conducting them to Joseph's house. Evidently an official, but they're appealing to him. Maybe they think that if they confess to him everything that happened, that he'll go to Joseph and tell him, well, these fellows really are all right. They're just trying anything they can. And he said, peace be to you. Fear not. Your God and the God of your father hath given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money. And he brought Simeon out unto them. Now, there's a clue here for the brothers. Okay, how many Columbos we have out there that can see the clue to the identity of Joseph? Your God and the God of your father. There's only one way that they could have known this about God, and that would be that somebody from their family had told them. How do you know the God? Your God and the God of your father. Now, there could have been other people down there who had heard of God, but who would have known about this? There's a clue there. Wow. Apparently, this man, through the testimony of Joseph over the years, had come to a knowledge of the true God. Joseph had been a marvelous witness, but this should have been a clue. This should have said, wait a minute here. Somebody in this house, and it must be that man, knows God. I think Joseph had at least partially let him in, the steward, in on what was going on. I think he had to, about what was going on there. When he said, I had your money. He's the steward. I had your money. Now, that probably frightened the brothers. And boy, I bet their minds racing, but he tells them, don't worry about it. God's blessing is upon you, basically what they said, what he tells them. Now, this should have, I think, calmed their nerves a little bit. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their asses provender. There was a custom of washing feet. Why did they wash feet? Because the feet got dirty. They didn't have paved roads. They wore sandals. And when they walked on those dusty roads, those feet got dirty. It was just good hospitality to do that, to give them water to wash the feet. You know, we saw it in the life of Abraham. Then again, down in the city of Sodom, it was that custom of the day. And it continued as a custom in Jesus' time. It was a sign of hospitality because there were basically no paved roads, just dirt. As you walked, which was the basic mode of transportation for most people, your feet got dirty. So when you arrived at a destination, if you were welcome, you had something to wash your feet with. And they made ready the present against Joseph came at noon. For they had heard that they should eat bread there. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand unto the house, and bowed themselves to him to the earth. Remember that old Jacob told his son to present the present to the man. Well, the man came home. It's lunchtime. And they bowed themselves to him again. Again, the boyhood dream of Joseph is being fulfilled. They give him the gift, they bow down, and he asked them of their welfare and said, is your father well? The old man of whom you spake, is he yet alive? Again, to me this is important. They've just been told the steward of the house believes in God. Someone told them. And here again, the man's interest, the man is interested in their father. Is he alive? It's a dramatic moment. You know, Joseph at this point is probably seated, not necessarily on a throne, but he probably had an elevated seat of prominence even at his table. And his brothers bowed down before him. When they stand to their feet, Joseph looks them right in the eye and they look at him. Is your father well? Is he still alive? There's his first question. You see, Joseph is interested in his father also. He sees Benjamin. Benjamin's okay. How's my father? I wonder how many times over the years Joseph had thought about his father. You know, I just can't imagine. I bet a day didn't go by that he didn't think about his father. Wondering how he was doing. Wondering if he would ever see him again alive. Wondering about these things. And they answered, thy servant, our father, is in good health. He is yet alive. And they bowed down their heads and made obedience. Here they go down again. Joseph's dreams continually being fulfilled. I would love to have a picture of this, wouldn't you? I really would. I think it'd be interesting to see. Benjamin's still with them, and he goes down on his face too. Oh, how the jealous brothers were now humbled in the presence of the most powerful man, but it's their own brother, and they have no idea. Yet the dreams are coming true just as predicted. And this will be my last verse for the evening because I don't want to run too late. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, is this your younger brother, of whom you spake unto me? And he said, God be gracious unto thee, my son. Is that my brother? Is that his Benjamin, his mother's son? His heart is probably racing. You know, he probably would love to just get up right now and go and grab Benjamin and the rest of the brothers. Well, it's interesting because he's Benjamin, his mother's son. Remember, the other brothers are half-brothers. Benjamin's his only full brother. Is this your younger brother of whom you spake? And the brothers probably nodded, maybe said yes. God be gracious unto thee, my son. Here we go. God be gracious unto thee. Connect the dots here. Brothers, think about what's going on. The steward knew God. This man knows God. The mind ought to be clicking a little bit. It's a dramatic moment, and at this point, Joseph can't contain his emotion. And I can't stop there. I have to go one more verse. I'm sorry. And Joseph made haste, for his vows did yearn upon his brother. And he sought where to weep, and he entered into his chamber and wept there. He was so deeply moved at seeing Benjamin. He couldn't take it. Excuse me for a moment. Someone wants to see me. I have a telephone call. He has to make an excuse. I have to leave. And he went into his private quarters and he wept. It's been 22 years since he's seen his baby brother. Joseph's almost 40. Benjamin's a young man. It's emotionally overwhelming for Joseph. And he would like to hold Benjamin, but he still has to find out some things. He has to find out the attitude of the brothers completely. And that's where we'll pick up next time. I said I was going to be shorter, but I don't think I was.